Hello, I'm Dr. Katherine Horton, and today is the 23rd of March 2018. I would like to make a little video about my take on the Scripal case that is now washing through the media. And I would like to start with the occasion for my little video. I think it has wider implications, and certainly we can learn a lot from this case. But the actual trigger for me making this video today was a tweet by the Ron Paul Institute, and it's read 30 questions that journalists should be asking about the Skripal case. It gave a link, and this is an image from the scene where investigators are looking into what could be a toxic nerve agent. So if you look at this article that's linked from this tweet sent today, you will get to this article here. And in it, the Ron Paul Institute went through quite some detail and gave a list here, right, down here, of I think a total of what, 30 questions, detailed questions about what's maybe a bit fishy about this case, okay? So they start by saying there are a lot of issues around the case of Sergei and Yulia Skripal, which at the time of writing are very unclear and rather odd. There may well be good and innocent explanations for some or even all of them. Then again, there may not. This is why it is crucial for questions to be asked where as yet there are either no answers or deeply unsatisfactory ones. So I wholeheartedly agree with that as an investigator. I personally think you can never ask enough questions. And I would like to give you a quick run through the questions they have asked here. I ask you to actually go to this article yourself. You can find it on the Ron Paul Institute. 30 questions that journalists should be asking about the Skripal case. Now, at this point in time, I'm not even sure if there are any journalists left on the payroll of mainstream media. So I think the only journalists left are working freelance or, are making their own personal YouTube videos and don't even know that they are journalists. Either way, I think the entire world should be asking these questions, and the few remaining journalists as well. So the questions that should be asked are, for example, why have there been no updates on the condition of Sergei and Yulia Skripal in the public domain since the first week of the investigation? Are they still alive? If so, what is their current condition and what symptoms are they displaying? In a recent letter to the Times, Stephen Davies, consultant in emergency medicine at Salisbury NHS Foundation Trust, wrote the following. Sir, further to your report, poison exposure leaves almost 40 needing treatment. May I clarify that no patients have experienced nerve agent poisoning in Salisbury, and there have only ever been 3 patients with significant poisoning. His claim that no patients have experienced nerve agent poisoning in Salisbury is remarkably odd, as it appears to flatly contradict the official narrative. Was this a slip of the pen? I mean, that's unlikely, right? Unless you really spill your coffee and, slip on your pen at the same time. Or was it his intention to communicate precisely this, that no patients have been poisoned by a nerve agent in Salisbury? And on it goes, and it goes into significant detail. I don't actually want to go through and duplicate the rather excellent analysis of the Ron Paul Institute, asking very, very good questions, okay? I mean, you can read through it yourself, and I encourage you to, okay? But I would like to give you, some, just a flavor for the general line of questioning here, okay? For example, here, how is it possible for a state, or indeed any personal entity that has been accused of something, in this case Russia, to defend themselves against an accusation if they are refused access to the evidence that apparently points to their guilt? Is this not a clear case of the reversal of the presumption of innocence and due process? So what this is talking about, right, is here, why did the British government issue a 36-hour ultimatum to the Russian government to come up with an explanation, but then refuse their request to share the evidence that allegedly pointed to their culpability? There could have been no danger of their tampering with it, since Porton would have retained their own sample. For those of you who don't know, who maybe haven't been to the UK, Porton is basically a biological and chemical warfare testing facility in the UK. Okay, so if you're in the UK, Porton Down means something to you. That's where you expect all the really deadly germs and chemical weapons to be developed. Okay, so but they also do testing. I mean, obviously they know their line of business very well. So that's where you send samples for testing. Okay, and yada, yada, yada. On it goes in greater detail, okay, about Russia and their involvement and or not involvement and yada, 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 and all the questions that should be asked mostly about the form. Now, as I said, I wholeheartedly agree with this article and I couldn't possibly do it better. And this is why I'm not going to go into that line of investigation. Okay, but I'm going to go into a line of investigation that no one has actually talked about in great detail, as far as I'm aware. Although I hope that there will be more and more people doing exactly the same. And that is asking just the most simple, common sense questions, and then really questioning in great detail the portrayal of these news in the media, because there are more clues hidden away there than you can possibly imagine. And you get to the answer, I would, most humbly submit, you get to the answers much quicker than by going through these 30 questions. These 30 questions also have to be asked, but in a sense you can cut to the chase by asking simpler ones. And one of the questions that I have posted myself, okay, here, when I read this from the Ron Paul Institute, I looked at this, I looked at their questions, and I looked at their tweet. And then I said, well, actually, gentlemen, spare yourself the hard work and bother. Instead of your 30 questions, really, the only question there's to ask is, if this so-called nerve agent is so toxic, why do we see on this image 3 men at the scene who don't wear any protection whatsoever? Okay, so I even highlighted them here, here, and there. All right, so how can it be that you have 4 men with gas masks and chemical protection or chemical/biological protection suits literally geared up to the hilt, and then you have these guys just, standing there within breathing distance, and the only thing that separates them is a so-called safety cordon, which is this blue thing running across that's not actually any safety whatsoever. And I said, don't be fooled, this is an MI5 Muppet show and a Killuminati ritual. And I replied to the 2 people who have, first of all, the Ron Paul Institute, and I received it from Vanessa Beatty because I follow her work. And actually, I recommend everybody to follow her work. Now, this led to a little exchange, okay? So people, of course, responded to that and so on. And then eventually, Vanessa Beatty said to me, could you expand on that, Catherine, please? Now, that's exactly what I would like to do. I would like to expand on it, first of all, for the benefit of Vanessa, because I respect her and her work a lot. I have followed it, and I recommend everybody to follow it in great detail, because what she's working on goes right to the heart of the matter and actually goes right to in the very same direction as my line of work, although we are approaching it from 2 different directions. So what I then did is I said, and I sent out a general call to absolutely everybody, and I said, shall we use our knowledge of cartel signaling to figure out what this Scripal case is all about? Let's see what the cartel tells their minions about it. And then I said, everybody who would like to take part, let's start with the report of the case below. And this report, this is literally the very first Google hit I got when I typed in Skripal, and that was a report from the Independent in the UK. And that's why I would like to start with this. So I picked it pretty much randomly. So this is the article. It reads, Sergei and Yulia Skripal could have suffered brain damage after nerve agent exposure, says judge. This was published a day ago. All right. So this article itself is about the international inspectors, as you can read here yourself, being given permission to test new blood samples to verify the substance used on Sergei Skripal and his daughter Yulia. Okay, now the reason why I picked this article, it's first of all because it's the first one that came up on my Google search. It's a fresh article, but also because I also know for a fact that the UK mainstream media are how to put this politely, display cartel signaling prolifically in their articles. All right. So now, for those people who don't really know anything about the cartel and what I mean by the cartel and what's behind all this, I would like to take you to the very first evidence of the existence of a global, worldwide cartel. This is a scientific proof of the existence of the cartel, and I will explain to you the implications. So, if you go to the website called archive.org, whereby archive is written A-R-X-I-V, okay, archive.org, and you type into the search bar over here, the network of global corporate control, you can get to this article on the network of global corporate control published in 2011. In fact, you can even find a TED talk on this, okay? If you go to the right, you can click on the article itself, the PDF. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is, in my personal view, the most important paper of the 21st century, because a group of mathematicians and systems analysts from ETH Zurich, from their systems analysis department, have now proven the existence of the worldwide cartel that for centuries, if not millennia, has been rumored to exist. Now, what they did is they mapped out the ownership of 43,000 global companies, okay, global corporations, and they used sophisticated methods and software to actually map out the interconnections. And they discovered that I think 40% of the biggest corporations, global corporations in the world, are owned by the very same group. Okay, so the companies, and these are of course companies owning companies in turn and so on, right? Now the actual top tier, okay, of this is this inner core, right? And the inner core consists of, you will not be surprised to find this out, right? Let me make this bigger so you can actually see. I think it's these two drawings that are the most intuitive. They consist of banks like Commerzbank, Credit Suisse, Deutsche Bank, Barclays, UBS, Lehman Brothers, you know, of old, Goldman Sachs, Bear Stearns, and so on, Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, Citigroup, Morgan Stanley, you know, and then insurance companies like AXA. Okay, so no one in the world will be surprised to hear this, right? But what you might be surprised to hear is that, well, these people own, I think, 40% of the companies, not people, these corporations own 40% of the companies, but I think 60% of the world revenue of these companies, okay? So this group is punching above its weight, if you like, but it's also clear that this type of analysis doesn't even catch the full size of this, okay? So I personally expect this construct, this cartel, to be much bigger than just 40% of the global economy. Now, what I'm saying is that in addition to what's in this paper, what is not in this paper is, as soon as you have a system the size of this cartel, it will not just own public corporations. It will, of course, own private corporations as well, but most importantly, it will also own governments. It will not just buy companies, it will also buy people. In other words, it will corrupt governments, okay? And then another branch, which is not mentioned in this analysis because it cannot be, but something that you can actually assess using systems analysis and the physics of human systems, that is the fact that a cartel of this size will own the entirety of global organized crime. And that is because organized crime is just like any other business at its core. It's organized, okay? It has its own supply chain. It has its own so-called customer base. Money comes in, money goes out, profits are made, you know, handouts are given, you know, certain perks and bonuses are distributed, and so on and so on. It is just like any other business, with one exception, and that is that organized crime does not pay tax, and it is not under any sort of antitrust regulation. And that's because who the hell's going to tell the mafia not to form a monopoly, right? I mean, they're organized crime. They're off the books. You know, most of the time we don't know about them. That's why they're organized crime. If you knew about them, they were all in jail. They would be all in jail. So this is it, okay? Now, it is a rule, a law of system physics of human systems, that when you have no antitrust regulation, you will form one big fat monopoly, a global monopoly in this case. So in organized crime, you don't have antitrust regulation. Therefore, I can safely say that we have one big fat global monopoly on organized crime. The question is, who the hell is heading it? Now, when you have just found a scientific article from 2011 explaining that you have a global cartel in the visible economy, you can be sure that whoever owns the visible cartel will own the invisible cartel as well, okay? And that is because organized crime, because it does not pay tax, makes more money, even if it were the same size as a normal business, by exactly the rate of tax that it doesn't pay. So if you have a tax rate of 20%, then organized crime will grow by 20% compared to a normal business because they don't pay tax. If your tax rate is 5%, then organized crime will grow at the rate of just 5% compared to a normal business. But either way, it will grow faster. And organized crime itself has to put its money somewhere, therefore it will invest, right? It also wants a return on its investment. It's a money business at the end of the day. So with these simple insights from the physics of human systems, you can safely say that organized crime owns this global cartel. In other words, these companies, this structure that we can see, because these researchers analyzed the global company databases, right? For example, Companies House is a registry of all the companies registered there and its ownership and so on. So this is what was fed into this analysis, but this analysis has not taken into account the invisible economy. So we can still get to that conclusion by just using simple laws from system physics, okay? You can think about it yourself, or you can take it on trust. Either way, this is pretty much how it is, and there's plenty of evidence out there. Now, this is my starting point, okay? I'm saying that there's a global cartel that has now been made visible and public in 2011 by this group of mathematicians and systems analysts, but it's actually much bigger because it owns all of organized crime. It's one big global monopoly, and because it also owns our governments, okay? And with this assumption or hypothesis, a lot of things in the world make a lot of sense, okay? Now, this has far-reaching implications. If you want to know more about this particular network of global corporate control, I recommend that you go to Karen Hudes, for example, who reports about the network of global corporate control in her video series, which I really highly recommend that you watch. And this is about how to cycle the financial system out of the grip of this cartel. Okay, so this network of global corporate control is not just a scientific paper with no relevance. This is a real thing. This is a report about a real entity, in fact, the biggest entity in our world, and it has an impact on every single one of us every single day. We just don't notice. Okay, but there's more to this than that, because once you actually understand the size of this cartel, okay, you also know that if it's global today, it must have been global 20 or 30 years ago, because it just doesn't expand that fast, okay? So you can track it back in time. And for example, Karen Hudes reports that this cartel has been with us since the last ice age, pretty much. It has been, this is a very powerful group, a very powerful network. That would make sense. I can't actually do a quantitative analysis with the tools I have to trace it back in time, but I can safely say that this structure is hundreds of years old, if not millennia old. That much is certain. Now, if this global cartel is hundreds of years old, has it not already owned the world a long time ago? And the answer is yes, it has. Now, the implication is that when you go, if you go back to this Scripal case here, okay, and if we talk about this, you know, the points highlighted by the Ron Paul Institute, which is trying to get at the question of, can we really blame Russia in quite such a flimsy way? And the answer is clearly no, right? But the Ron Paul Institute basically goes after this this claim by the UK government that, oh, the Russians did it, you know, ah, yeah, them Russians again, right? Now, we've heard it a million times. We heard it, for example, in the claimed manipulation of the US election that brought Donald Trump to power, and so on and so on. There was talk about Russian collusion and so on. And in the end, the evidence, or the lack thereof, that was presented, right, implied that those claims were bogus. Now, what this is, the reason why this is really important to talk about the network of global control is that as soon as you understand what it actually is and what it stands for and what it does, discussions like these become such piffling trivialities, you don't even need to waste your time with them. And that is for the simple reason that if today we have a global cartel of this size, we can deduce, using the laws of system physics, that it has to have been around for hundreds of years. If it has been around for hundreds of years, it owned the world and the governments already 100 years ago, most certainly 40 or 50 years ago. And this means that the entire division between the US and Russia and the UK and Russia is total piffling nonsense. They are owned by the same corporation. Wholesale. This is what it means, okay? Now, I will proceed to present evidence for that, and I do weekly on my show called Techno Crime Fighters Forum. For now, just take it on trust, and I will show you one piece of evidence, which is, let's just go back to the height of tensions between the US and Russia. That was during the Cold War, wasn't it? Okay. Now, during the Cold War, between nuclear standoffs and so on, the Russian flag looked like so. You will notice the Satanic pentagram. And I will just say that this is a Satanic pentagram. This was actually the Soviet flag, okay? Now, before it became modern Russia. So in the Soviet flag, you have the Satanic pentagram. However, if you go to the US flag, you have 50 Satanic pentagrams for the 50 Satanic states. Now, if you go to the EU flag, you have 12 Satanic pentagrams for the 12 Satanic states. And now I ask you, when you have such a big division between the US and the Soviet Union, supposedly, would the Soviet Union put a US star on its flag if they hated each other that much? I mean, was there only one star graphics designer knocking around during the Cold War, and that's the only thing he could come up with? Or is it rather the case that we have been under the rule of this cartel for a very long time, and its nature is satanic? Okay, and what this cartel actually does is that on the Soviet Union, it signaled its ownership, the pentagram, the Satanic pentagram, at the top, even above the hammer and sickle, right? This is at the top. So the highest, well, I don't know what, the agenda, whatever you want to call it, right, is the Satanic undercurrent, all right, the Satanic rule. And this is why I would say to you, we have the Satanic pentagram everywhere. Now, of course, you're going to call me totally barking mad if you have never studied the cartel, but I can shortcut you deductively to the answer by just saying to you that if you have, and this is now by the laws of system physics for human systems, if you have a cartel of this size, okay, that owns so much money and so many assets, the very top will be, how to say, rather infought. Now, when the top is rather infought, okay, only psychopaths will survive, because only the most ruthless and the most callous people will actually survive a day at work in those working conditions. And this is why, by definition, a cartel of this size will sieve the most psychopathic ones of its members to the top. Okay, it's a selection process, and only the most psychopathic and most ruthless will ever make it to the top. Now, psychopaths have this trait that they don't have a conscience. They don't feel emotion about seeing other people suffer, or they even get off on it if they're sadistic psychopaths. That is such a competitive advantage in this sort of mafia organized crime environment, that they will celebrate it. In fact, they have to celebrate it to keep the other clinical psychopaths at bay. Now, the way they celebrate it is with satanic rituals, and satanic rituals are, in a sense, one-upmanship. They prove and reprove over and over to each other that they are still as sick in the head as it can get, and therefore others should stay away. Okay? And this is why in every sort of pyramid organization, in any sort of cartel of this size, you will have the top being governed by extremely ruthless principles, which has been stylized into Satanism. I personally, as an atheist, I'm not into the God versus Satan sort of stuff. I personally think this is brainwash. If you are, I don't have to say anything further because you already believe in it. If you don't believe in it, let me explain it in the scientific way by making references to psychopaths, okay? The end result will be exactly identical, okay? My personal take is that the Bible talks about these people precisely because they have been around thousands of years ago. All right, so demonic possession, satanic traits in people, you know, behaving like Satan and so on and so on. For me, that is the description of a psychopath, okay, sadistic psychopath. Okay, so this is the premise of it all. And this is how I'm going to approach this entire article about Sergei Skripal, okay? As far as I'm concerned, the US, the Soviet Union and US have been run by the same corporation, have been essentially different branch offices of the same corporation already during the Cold War. Now the EU is yet another construct of the very same corporation. If you're wondering what sort of corporation that would be, I encourage you to read up about the Crown Corporation, okay? But let's just leave that to another time. Right now, I would like to go back to this article about Sergei. So what I would like to put to you is that when you have a cartel of global size that also owns the entirety of organized crime, it has to communicate with its foot soldiers. It has to do so every single day, and it has to do so about many, many issues, and it has to coordinate programs and campaigns and fraud and racketeering and all that. And it has to do it in a covert fashion because there still is some form of policing and law enforcement, even though on some days, it's hard to believe. But it still has to be done in a covert fashion. So what you actually have is one part of our society, which is part of this cartel, pulling a fast one on the other part of society that isn't part of this cartel. And they have to do it in a very covert fashion before enough of us cotton on to what they're doing, okay? So this is where cartel signaling comes from. It's a real thing, and it has to exist precisely because a cartel of this phenomenal size has to communicate with its employees, if you want to call them that. Now, if you're part of the visible part of this cartel, of course, you can send memos within these official companies, but if you're part of the criminal side of this cartel, you can't really send memos per email, can you? You can't, your board of directors can't really, get on a Skype call to their managers and middle managers and say, you know what, guys, I think what we should do next is this. Okay. So what they have developed is gangster talk. And I call this cartel signaling because it's not just gangster talk, it's much more sophisticated than that. So when I'm reading this article, I am already looking for cartel signaling, okay? And that is because what we have in front of us is the murder, the potential murder, because I think this is what was aimed for, right? These people are still hanging on to their life. But as it says here, they might have suffered severe brain damage, so they are brain dead, perhaps. But the intent was murder or maybe severe brain damage. So that sort of stuff is the staple business of this global crime cartel. They are basically into killing people, as mafiosis do, right? So, but furthermore, we have this case of it being in the UK and maybe Russia's involved, and then the UK blames Russia and Russia just wants the evidence and doesn't get it. So we've got this UK-Russia tension thing. And for me, from the get-go, that's nonsense. As a systems analyst, I know that what Theresa May is saying is blooming nonsense. Okay, so the question is, what is this actually about? We have people who have been severely hurt in a very mafiosi sort of way, and then we've got different branches of the Crown Corporation throwing dirt at each other and putting out a big spectacle. So what the hell could this all be about? Now, because I already arrive at this independent article with this premise, and because I have done a lot of research in the past about cartel signaling, looking at adverts, music videos, Hollywood movies, mainstream media, I already know for a fact that the Independent is entirely owned by the cartel, as is the entirety of mainstream media, and they engage in prolific cartel signaling. In fact, cartel signaling is their only raison d'etre. Okay, that might be a new worldview to you, and it certainly was for me a few years ago, but that is the best of my knowledge. So when you're reading an article in The Guardian or The Independent or The Telegraph or The Times, it's not to inform you. No, it is to mislead you, and at the same time, the cartel is using everything it's putting out there to communicate with the other half of society that is a member of the cartel, to actually give them information and guide them. Okay, so every article, I would say, or pretty much the big ones, well, the world attention is focused on, that will be exactly this dual purpose. The cartel wants to mislead the other half of society that's not a member, and they want to communicate with their own. So as soon as I see, oh, this is an article by the Independent, right, the first Google hit, and it's in the mainstream press, and this is about a topic that everybody is concerned about and has the world's attention, well, I am expecting a feat of cartel signaling. So this is where I'm coming from, okay? And this is why I'm making this video, because the Ron Paul Institute has not said a word. It hasn't even breathed half a word about this. And I think this goes to the heart of the matter, because it goes to the heart of the cartel and its big projects. And this is basically where Vanessa Beeley and I are working on the same problem, even though we might not see it that way in our day-to-day. She's working about, I would say, she's working on the asset stripping projects around the world of the global crime cartel. And I, being a victim of the crime cartel myself, or rather its intelligence agencies, I'm trying to stop the genocide of the Western population and the population around the world with directed energy weapons. Okay, so for those of you who don't know much about me, I invite you to go to my website called stop007.org, and there you will find all about me. You will find you find out what I do. You will find my team, my weekly show, and you will also see my evidence, although my evidence I'm still in the process of uploading, and you will see court cases, including my court case against British intelligence. Okay, and here you can find out a bit. Of course, this website needs more work, and I'm doing much more than is on there, but you will get a good idea who I am. And then I also would like to point you to the website of my team, which is jointinvestigation.org. And this is the Joint Investigation Team US-Europe. The JIT works, so the JIT consists of 5 ladies, including the NSA whistleblower Karen Melton Stewart, the pastor Dr. Millicent Black, and the journalist and writer Ramola Maraj, and Melanie Vrichan in Belgium, who's the president of the human rights organization Ecator. So you can find out who we are, even download a who is who. And you can also look at the work. So we're in the process of publishing JIT reports about the crimes that we are fighting. And behind the scenes, we're working with some of the people who are experts in these crimes and so on. But anyway, so this is what I'm working on. And that is pretty much the asset stripping of the global crime cartel in the Western world. Okay, so both Vanessa Beeley and I, we're both working in fighting the cartel, the very same cartel, but we are, we are fighting different tentacles of the same octopus. Okay, so let's go back to Sergei and Yulia Skripal, and let's look at this independent article. And this is why, sorry, I click around so much. This is why I put out this tweet and I said, please, let's just have a look at the cartel signaling in this article, okay? Because the cartel signaling has to be there, because with every article, the cartel has to mislead one half of the population, but tell the other half that's a member of the cartel what's actually going on. If it doesn't do that, it will confuse a hell of a lot of people. And it mustn't do that. So it will always write something that is means something to the normal people in inverted commas, and it will mean something entirely else to cartel members. All right, so let's just, dive into it, and I will just analyze this exactly how I analyzed it. I do not claim to be the ultimate last word in cartel signaling. There's so much more that you can get out of this, and there are so many other ways that you can look at it as well. So I encourage you to think about it yourself, maybe take it as a brief introduction, as maybe some pointers you could use, and then go out yourself, and I encourage you to look at music videos, Hollywood movies, and even adverts, and look for cartel signaling yourself. And with time, you will learn the vocabulary, and you will see how it's being used. And bit by bit, you can actually decode this language. And at the end of the day, always remember that cartel signaling has been devised for a global organized crime cartel to talk to its crooks. So these people are not geniuses. This is not going to be high code, okay? You don't have to have the world experts in, cryptography trying to decrypt this stuff. You just have to have a bit of common sense, okay? All right, so let's go through this article. Now, when I first saw it, the first thing that flashes up is this, video by Theresa May, but let's just skip that for now, because we all know that that's going to be nonsense. I also said in my tweets that the cartel, when it's communicating with total dipshits, okay, with total crooks, it tends to focus first on the imagery and words second. So always images first and words second. So I would say, if you want to cut to the chase, let's just look at the images and ignore the words for now, okay? Now, the very first image, sorry, this is an advert here, forget that. The very first image in this article is this one here. And it's quite striking, because you have these guys unloading these big red bags. Now, when the media puts out an article like that gets world attention, they are very careful. They are extremely careful about what images they put out, and a lot more thought goes into it than you could possibly imagine. So when you get this first image and you see these people put out that stuff, of course, the implication is, oh yeah, the guys are arriving now to do the forensics. Of course, but you don't have to inform the world about that and waste an image about that, right? Because we all know that guys will arrive and do the forensics. So there must be some sort of other meaning. And for me personally, because of what I looked into and my personal interests, this image was striking, because my first thought was, hang on a second, I've seen that bag before. And I know exactly why I saw this bag before, because it left quite an impression on me. I have seen this bag in the case of Gareth Williams, which was this MI6 agent who worked for GCHQ and was on loan, I would say, to MI6, and then was murdered. Now, if you go to the article, it was in the press kind of reported as the spy in the bag case. Okay, they reduced down Gareth Williams, who was a math prodigy, down to the spy in the bag. Okay, now, yeah. So the spy in the bag case, if you Google that, you will find, for example, the Sun article, and there you will see people trying to imitate the position in which Gareth Williams' body was found in a sports bag. And you will see image over image over image of this bag and people trying to climb into it. And the story behind it is that this math prodigy was found in a safe house in London that's owned by MI6, and he was found zipped into a sports bag with these handles you know, with the Velcro strap that holds these handles together intact, and with the padlock put on the zip on the outside. Okay, and the bathtub was partially filled with water. This is how his body was found, and I think there was no DNA of Gareth Williams on the doorknob and stuff like that. Yet he was lying dead in that sports bag. Now, yeah, I will not say much more about Gareth Williams this time, because I say quite a lot about him on other days. But suffice to say that once you have worked on this case, this red sports bag or this red bag really means something to you. It means a lot. And so that's why when I saw these guys unload an entire batch of these red bags, I thought, the spy in the bag. Or rather, several spies in the bag. That's what it signals to me. Now, at the end, I will close the loop. The circle will close, and I will come back to the spy in the bag. But for now, suffice to say that this image, being the first one in the article, is highly odd. And needs some explanation when you understand how the media works, but it might make a lot more sense at the end of it. Now, as a background, well, no, let me say that at the end, okay? Let me keep you on tenterhooks here. All right, so what's the next image? So by the way, this image is another article, so let's ignore that. What images are actually in this article? Now, the next image is, of course, that of Putin. Because they want to smear it on Russia, and oh yes, Putin is so bad, and I think the entire direction of arguing will be, oh, that's why we have to start war with Russia and kill 1 million people because 2 people died in London. That's my gut feeling. Either way, it's going to be something about smearing Russia and smearing Putin and saying, oh, he was involved and he's responsible. Now, as soon as I saw the image of Putin, I immediately thought, hang on, Satanic Soviet Union, Satanic United States, Satanic Europe. Well, please give me a break, okay? So what possibly could be the reason for this image? And also remember that there are many, many images of Putin. Why did they pick this one? Of course, for the normal part of society, the only thing that they want to put out is this info, and it's about, oh, Putin is responsible and them Russians did it, okay? Now that's for the normal part of society. What is possibly being put out for the cartel? Now, when you look at this image for the cartel, well, I can't really see anything. It's just Putin standing somewhere where it's clearly cold outside. In the image, you've got some bit of red, bit of blue, yeah, something blurred, and then some lights illuminating him, and above his head, a big bright desk. Okay, another light. Now, you know, people who are bigger experts in cartel signaling than I am probably can read a whole batch into this. But the only thing I could spot was this big light at the top, which can sometimes be a symbol for the sun. Okay, this entire satanic psychopathic cabal at the top, as part of their vocabulary, and especially because they're so old and they go back to the Romans, and before that to the Babylonians, and then maybe all the way back to the Ice Age. Sun worship is also part of their vocabulary. So sometimes these lights up in the corner are a symbol for the sun and sun worship and so on, and this entire satanic thing. So this could be what it is. Yeah, I don't know. That's the only thing I could come up with. Let's run with it. And again, the point is that it matters which image of Putin that was used here, okay? It matters which image. Was it just an image of him where you can see his face? Was it an image of him sitting somewhere in a suit? Is he walking somewhere? Is he giving a speech? And here he is giving a speech, and behind him, you've got a light. So I would say, okay, something, they maybe want to say this is a speech and a message from Putin, but we know that the Russians and the US are the same, owned by the same corporation. So the only thing I could say is, okay, you've got, perhaps references sun worship and this entire cartel already there, perhaps. But maybe it's just vacuous boomf. Okay, so let's just move on to the next image. Now, at the bottom of this article, you've got a total of 13 images. Now, 13 means something in the cartel because there are 13 bloodlines. I think there are 13 catacombs below the Vatican, for precisely this reason. And, you know, 13 just comes up over and over to refer to the top of the cartel, you know, and their bloodlines, these old mafia families. Okay, but that aside, that's not really, you know, solid evidence. But now let's look at the images that were actually used, okay? So again, sorry, ignore these images. That's adverts targeted at me because I'm in Switzerland. But let's focus on the images in the article. So I will say that my experience is that every single image that's used in an article has a meaning. It's telling us something. So what could be possibly the reason behind this image? Okay, we see a bunch of guys in a chemical protection suit with gas masks, looking at a car. Okay, and the explanation is investigators in protective clothing remove a van from an address in Winterslow near Salisbury in Wiltshire, as police and members of the armed forces continue to investigate this suspected nerve agent attack on Russian double agent Sergei Skripal. Oh, and by the way, it says Sergei Skripal, not Skripal. Little mistakes like that can be just that, or can be a message. Sergei Skripal doesn't actually mean anything to me. Perhaps I'm a bit too thick to pick it out this time. If somebody has an idea, then let me know. Otherwise, I'll literally just assume for now that this is just an honest spelling mistake. Going back to the image, if I was looking for cartel signaling, I would look for things like that. Again, remember the image of Putin where we couldn't figure out what the point was? Do you remember the bright light that could be, you know, this image for the sun? Well, note that the most prominent thing in whack in the middle between these two guys is again a bright light. Now, what this could be in cartel signaling, and as I say, it seems very vacuous and flimsy at first, and bit by bit as the evidence accumulates and these clusters of clues form, it will become clearer, okay? But based on my experience as an investigator, stuff like that could mean what they have is the cartel in their back. So this is backed by the cartel, okay? So this entire show is backed by this sun-worshipping ancient cartel. Okay, now what else? In cartel signaling, sometimes you have to follow people's eyes. So this, if you follow it in 3D, just looks down to the floor and you can't see anything. But when you follow it in 2D, as the image appears, his eyes are looking like down. Okay, if I can draw a direct line to here, and then things like this writing here can have a meaning. I'm not sure if it does here. It's, to me, it says W 20. No idea. It doesn't actually mean anything to me. W can sometimes be V, and W can be sometimes V, the Templar V, okay? So it could be something like that, but that's a bit too flimsy. So frankly, this light in the back of these two people is the only thing I can pick out. He's looking rather dull. He doesn't seem to look anywhere. Frankly, looks like, you know, he should take off the gas mask and get some fresh air. And this guy seems to just look down on the floor. So it could be, okay, the cartel is behind these guys, and this is looking down on the people who are at the bottom of this cartel. Okay. Now, the next image is much more interesting, because why on earth would you possibly include this image in a major mainstream news article that's going to be read by hundreds of thousands of people around the world? And it's going to be a lasting document forever. Would you really photograph this corner that just frankly looks a bit crap, right? I mean, you either photograph the scene, by the way, this white object with the yellow, okay, this yellow-white thing. This is a protective tent around the bench where Sergei Skripal and his daughter Yulia collapsed, I think. But you would either photograph that, or you would photograph something else, but you wouldn't really put this into the background and then just photograph the wall in a random shop, would you? So this, for these reasons, because it doesn't make any sense in the normal world, it means that it must have some sort of relevance in the cartel world. It must have big meaning, in fact, exclusively meaning in the cartel world. So let's ignore what's on the image and let's look for exclusively cartel signaling. So the first thing you'll notice, it says police, police, okay? So police pointing that way. And yes, the arrow points right at the police officer. Yes, indeed, that is a member of the police, okay? So what it will say is, on the one hand here, you've got the police, but the police are cordoned off and the police are that way. And then something else is happening this way, including the forensic assessment of that case. And then behind it all, and even having an arrow point at it in 2D, okay, and the cartel does this a lot. So you have in 3D, these things are, you know, behind each other and don't have any connection to each other. But in 2D, they line up perfectly on an image to actually form an arrow pointing at something. So suddenly you have this arrow pointing at World of Cards. Now, does that have possibly a meaning in the cartel? And yes, sure as hell it does, because the cartel considers this to be a card game, a poker game, a worldwide poker game. Okay, now when it suddenly says world of cards, it means the world of poker game, the world of gambling. Okay, the world of what's it called? Games of chance. So this image is the first one, or the second one if you count the one about the red bags, that exclusively just has a meaning for the cartel. For everybody else, it's like, okay, what the hell? You're showing me a shop and then you're showing me a police officer. Well, I know what police officers look like, right? So what the hell? So this is a cartel image. And it means this is about the world of cards, the game of chance, and the world of cards playing cards, as in the cartels playing cards. And I can show you other images, other examples where playing cards is a symbol for the big worldwide games of the cartel. There are music videos that have this, you know, as a set of symbology. So I would say here it means this is about the world of cards. This is about the cartel, as the arrow points at us. And then if you look at what are they displaying in their shop window, you know, you could say, oh, but whatever's here is what the cartel wants to tell us. And what they have here prominently is egg hunt. Okay, so the cartel, the world of cards, and the game of chance is telling us this is an egg hunt. Okay? Now, if it's an egg hunt, it means this is an Easter hunt. Okay? We have to look for, you know, we have to look for clues. The other thing you will also notice because of the color is this football, okay? That's also prominently displayed. And then when you're thinking about football, you're thinking about perhaps scoring a goal. So it could be that this is about the game of chance, you know, global gambling of the cartel, and they've just scored a goal. And what they want us is to go on an egg hunt and find out what they did. This is how I would interpret it. And that's the only way it makes sense. And then of course you can say, yes, but that's just a random shop window. And then I say, well, yes, but the way this cartel works is, first of all, they do have agents everywhere. They have got people owning shops absolutely everywhere. Okay, for example, the German Stasi had recruited 1 in every 6 people. And I think the global cartel has achieved at least that much, if not more. But I would say 1 in 6 is almost safe to assume. Even if it were 1 in 10, the only thing that the photo team would have to do is to photograph the one shop that's theirs, and then they can make the owner, you know, put out whatever they need to, or else they go around until they find something that can be used for cartel signaling, you know. Either way, they have a million ways of pulling this off. This is part of their art. This is what they do as a day job, okay? So they're pretty good at it. But this is how I would interpret this image, and I hope you understand why I make such a big deal out of it, because for normal people, it's unfathomable that you can possibly have so much effort go into this. But when you understand that a case like the Skripals might have global implications, it makes total sense. then to send one of your cartel photographers out to, you know, stage an image, it's like, that's piffling. You know, these are peanuts we're talking about. Okay, so again, keep in mind this is a hypothesis, okay? And if you find it incredible right now, bear with me and see what else I can show you. So with this hypothesis, analyzing the other image, what might this tell us in terms of cartel signaling? Of course, for all the normal people, what it shows is, oh yes, the military is involved. They really want to get at the bottom of it. And there's all these, you know, important looking men everywhere, you know, like the first image with the red bags. It's all just men and they have everything under control. And don't you worry, little people, you know, it's all fine. Okay. But what's the message for the cartel? Well, most of the time, you look right at the middle of the image for the answer. And in the middle of the image, you have this guy that was getting ready, you know, and this wrapping himself in this chemical protection suit. But what is so remarkable about him is that he is wearing this camouflage pattern on top. So he's got one hood with camouflage pattern and then another one on top. And he's displaying this one. So in terms of the cartel signaling, I would say that what this is signaling is under the guise of these investigators is actually the military. So the military is behind this, or military intelligence. Okay. I would say that this is what it means. Okay. Behind this is military intelligence. Okay. Now, the next image is about covering up an ambulance. And of course, what it's actually meant to mean is here, personnel in protective coveralls and breathing equipment cover an ambulance with a tarpaulin at the Salisbury District Hospital. Or Salisbury, sorry, in England you pronounce it Salisbury. So, okay, either way, fine. But then again, for the normal people, this is like, oh, you probably have some forensic traces in maybe the ambulance that was used to transport those people, and it's such a toxic nerve agent. You absolutely have got to cover it, okay? And make sure that every last molecule of evidence is you know, kept. And most importantly, those people living right next to it with their windows open, their bathroom windows open, and these rather dreary looking flats that look strikingly like where I used to live in Oxford, you know, they have to be protected. They have to be safe. Okay. Now that's the message to the normal people. What's the message to the cartel? Well, the message to the cartel is you've got these people covering it, but the shot was taken in the moment where this guy lifts the cover to show you bits of the ambulance. Of course, for the normals, it just means you're still trying to tell us that they are covering an ambulance. You're proving that they're covering an ambulance. Fine. But for the cartel members, what it means is that under the cover, look what you can see under the cover. You can see this dark green and yellow pattern, and this guy is looking right at it. Now, this is a normal British ambulance, but he's looking at that pattern. So let's just remind ourselves what it looks like. Ambulance UK. Let's look at a couple of images of ambulances here. All right. All these ambulances have these big green and yellow patches on. Okay. Which looks strikingly like police at UK. It looks strikingly like this. And on the case of police officers, what this is Masonic tiling. Okay, so on the floor of a Masonic temple checkered. Yeah, these are images of Masonic temples. They have this checkered pattern. Why do all Masonic temples have this checkered pattern? Because they are playing chess with our civil society. They are playing chess with us. Okay, the Masons being a global, maybe the biggest secret society, or the second biggest secret society on the planet. So what the police cap having the same pattern actually means, the police force is a Masonic force, completely infiltrated by the Masons, there was already the Police Federation saying that the Masons are blocking reform. So I can prove you that. Police Federation, Masons blocking reform. Here, Freemasons are blocking reform, says Police Federation leader. Okay, this is here from December, the 31st of December 2017. So the UK police force is entirely infiltrated and controlled by the Freemasons, and that's why they can block reform. So when you see their caps and they've got Masonic tiling on, it makes total sense, right? And in this case, I'm telling you, the Masonic tiling means that the police is there not to protect us, it's there to protect the cartel from us. So what the police does, it's policing the floor of the Masonic Temple. This means they are policing the floor. Okay. Now once you know this, and as I said, I have been doing this for a very long time, and this is why I'm fairly confident saying that. Once you know this, what does it mean here on the ambulances when you have Masonic tiling? What it means is that the ambulance service, as you know, the NHS is being privatized, is being sold off. But it's also being bought up by this big secret society and the cartel. In other words, they have turned the ambulances and the NHS into a Masonic healthcare system. What that means is that Masons can expect excellent healthcare as long as they are on good terms with the cartel, and the rest of us might be used for organ trafficking. Now, again, you know, you might be shocked to hear that, but there are articles, and there was an entire interview on the Richie Allen Show on YouTube, and the Richie Allen Show YouTube channel has been closed down by YouTube in the meantime and had to be reopened, so you have to look for it. But I remember seeing an interview on there about exactly that. People whistleblowing that patients on the NHS are being used for organ harvesting. Now, when you can see the Masonic tiling printed on, that doesn't come as a surprise. Okay, so that's again the background, and you need to know all this when you're looking at an image like that. So what this image tells me in terms of cartel signaling is under the cover of it all is something to do with the Masonic healthcare, right? With Masons getting people into an ambulance, into their Masonic healthcare system, and then doing whatever the hell they like. Okay. That's again what it means to me. So let's move on. If you still don't believe me, let's just look at the next image. Okay, now this image I would say is entirely for the normals. Okay, the cartel caters to both parts of society, their members and the normals. And you have people visiting the site, and you have the journalists down there. Everybody's looking at it, right? Looking at this big Easter egg, thinking, yep. And then curiously, you have on the other side a single person staring down at the scene from the other side. Now that could be, you know, it could be just another police officer or an undercover police officer securing the scene from the other side, keeping people away. You know, in terms of cartel signaling, it could be while they are watching it, you know, so they are actors watching from afar. But I would say this image is pretty much, you know, entirely for the normals. Again, you've got arrows, sorry, not arrows, arrows in the image, and this time the most prominent arrow points towards City Hall and Playhouse and the railway station. No idea. Yeah, the Playhouse. It could be all, this is all just a big spectacle, you know. But otherwise, I can't really read very much out of this. Let's just go to the next image. I would say this is one for the normals, okay? Unless you say this is for the Playhouse. Now the next one, I had to laugh when I saw this one, okay? Because I mean it's kind of cute. These serious guys, you know, looking like I don't know what, green little gnomes, you know, going through an awful lot of effort securing this thing, okay? And meanwhile, you have these birds just, you know, picking around, and you think, hang on, guys, if there's nerve agents smeared absolutely everywhere, you know, don't these birds carry it into all the four winds? Oh, it doesn't matter. But, you know, for the normals, this is just meant to be, oh, gosh, this is such a toxic nerve agent. Oh my goodness, we're so glad we're safe and it doesn't affect us. Okay, so it's a shock element, and it looks bizarre and shocking. And by the way, bizarre is one of the cartel terms, but it certainly looks grotesque. Okay, a bit kind of curious and funky and grotesque. Now, in terms of cartel signaling, the cartel knows that everything here is a big show. So the cartel messages are hidden. So if you look at hidden messages, what could it be, right? Now, here you suddenly read Rotary wishing well. Please give generously. I mean, okay, as always, this could be just randomly in the image, you know, and the journalist from where they're standing could just zoom into this, and that's the only shot that they could get, right? Sure. But in terms of cartel signaling, it might have a second meaning, which is Rotary, right? Rotary, there's also Rotary Club, and the Rotary Club is, oops, sorry, I went to the next image. The Rotary Club is part of these cartel secret societies, or semi-secret. I mean, the Rotary Club has got a website and so on, like the Freemasons, but their activities and their networks are hidden. So Rotary wishing well could also be, instead of a wishing well, which is what this little thing is here, it could be the Rotary Club is wishing you well, as in, you know, a message from the Rotary Club. Please give generously means, well, you better donate generously to the cartel, right? So already the sort of money aspect comes into it, but it's almost like, okay, you know, the Rotary Club, or the Rotary Club being a branch of the cartel, you know, it's like, hey, well wishes from the cartel, you know, it's like, you know, the cartel sends its regards. Now, this image is the one that has been put out everywhere in the press. And that is basically the smoking gun. So you have these people going through and analyzing the scene and so on, and they're all wrapped up, and it's all just highly, highly, you know, dangerous and so on. And they have to have these chemical suits and these masks because, you know, they could be smeared and stuff and so on. And then they are standing there, and just meters away, there are guys without any protection whatsoever actually hanging around right next to these people. So, you know, these guys would come here and would also be kind of rinsed off before they take their jackets off. And I'm almost suspecting these blue things are them being rinsed off, okay, by these guys. So you've got so much security, right, and protection here. So you've got these two guys, and they're the two guys who are going up to actually analyze this entire thing and their funky little outfits. And then they come back where they're to be rinsed off at this point on this blue thing. And then the idea is that you collect all the water that you use to rinse them off and make sure it doesn't go into the groundwater and so on, and, you know, splash around this field where children might play. So you've got these people coming back from their mission, being rinsed off, where you get a lot of splash left and right, and just, you know, inches away, you've got these guys stand around. I don't think so. So for the normals, this is an image where they don't really think past the stage where you think, oh my God, that must be such a toxic nerve agent. But the cartel, who is much more clued in than we are, right? They know, it's like, come on, this is all bollocks, right? I mean, look at these dudes, right? They're all standing there like, yeah, hey, what's this? You know, can we have a biscuit? This is nonsense. If you're about to rinse these people off on this blue thing, you won't have anybody there in you know, in a within a range of 20, 50 meters, ideally, you know? So what is this nonsense? So what it actually means and signals straight away is this is nonsense. You know, these guys have nothing in the world to do. They're just standing around watching. There's no reason for them to be this close, unless everybody knows this is all bullshit. Okay, so finally, and now it gets interesting because they included this image. And I'm thinking, what has this to do with anything? I mean, the only thing that's somehow related is that you have a police officer standing around. But it could be literally anywhere, you know? I mean, this is probably in Salisbury, in the same place, but I mean, it could be on the high in any other place. So what the hell is this? So clearly, given that it makes no sense whatsoever in the world of the normals, in the world of the muggles, if you like, what meaning does it have in the wizardry world of the cartel? So straight away you have here, this is a classic cartel symbol. These are the double pillars of Freemasonry. The double pillars feature everywhere. And you've got the high-vis jacket dude right highlighting this bit. So clearly always look at the high-vis first, the highlighting, and he placed himself there. He could be standing. Why does he have to stand in front of the door? I mean, this, he could be standing here, but instead, no, he's standing there. Perhaps he's blocking the door and people are in the restaurant. Could be. He's making sure no one walks out this way. Possibly. But he stands right in the middle. And again, this picture was taken for a reason. So clearly it doesn't they just don't want to, just signal, oh, hey, we even made sure that nobody comes out of the restaurant. It's that toxic. Perhaps this is the message to the normals. But for the cartel, it means you have highlighted the double pillars of Freemasonry. So this is some sort of Masonic enterprise here. And then you also have here the triangle at the top. This is again a cartel symbol. And then, I hear you say, oh, but this is just classical architecture. Well, yeah, but the cartel is hundreds of and millennia old, hundreds of years, if not millennia. So the entire architecture and the language of architecture, especially of this faux classical remake, will be Masons using these symbolisms and working them into modern piece of art, because I tell you that this here is not a classical structure here. It's not even neoclassical. It's just probably, something whacked on by somebody who was a Mason. So anyway, but then most tellingly it says individuality Italian. So it's almost like you have the double pillars of Freemasonry, reference to the cartel, and individuality Italian. So, does that possibly have a reason? So Italian, the reference to Italy, are also telling, just like the double pillars, and that's because the cartel, right, is at the top related to the Italian mafia. Okay, so the Italian mafia has as its headquarters the Vatican. Again, if you're new to this, you might be shocked. Just take it from me and run with it for now, okay, and do your research later. But that's what it is. So, reference to Italy means, excuse me, reference to the cartel. Okay, so clearly they have highlighted Freemasonry and the Italian part of the cartel as in the mafia, okay, the global mafia. And then this police officer emphatically looks that way. So let's just follow his gaze across. And then suddenly you notice something. I'm not even sure if this person is inside. I don't think this person is inside the restaurant, because then they couldn't be seen like that. They seem to be highlighted. So this is a reflection. So this is a reflection of somebody. And there's so much highlighting of him because of the gaze, right? Looking right across. And this gaze says, look over to the right. And what do you spot on the right? You spot the image of somebody. Now, here, I really don't know who that is or who they are referencing. Okay, but it could be because this image is aligned. I mean, it could be that that's the only way that, it can be done. The head seems to be separated from the body by this line, but I would suspect that that's the only way you can get this shot if somebody's standing across the street and, to be still visible in the reflection. So I don't think this line has a meaning. But certainly, this is a message to somebody. It could be, I don't know who the real owners of Zizis are, no idea. But it's some sort of Italian reference from the Freemasons. So, okay. Okay, now, not sure what to make of this, but let's keep going. And then you have this image, which is extremely interesting. And I tell you, in the end, I'll close the circle and I'll tell you how every single image here has a meaning. Every single image. And remember, there were 13 images. And you know, when I saw how every image seems to have a meaning, I almost suspect these are for the 13 bloodlines, but that's just, you know, rather far-fetched perhaps. But certainly look at this image. Why would mainstream media put up this image? Okay, why would they possibly put us this image? Because it's blurred. This is an image that you can find elsewhere in the press, and this is the one police officer, right, who assisted the Russians and was also hospitalized. Now, the two Russians, right, are severely ill and brain damaged, and he's just standing there with a sly smile. I'm not sure if he's out of the hospital and this was the image of him taken afterwards, but certainly this lopsided smile is rather striking. And then you can see that this is an excerpt from a bigger image and it has been blown up. So what that tells me straight away, given that the media always use high-def images when they can, it immediately signals to me that they have taken an excerpt from this because they're sending a message. Otherwise, why not include the entire image? Okay, because I've seen this image and it's actually high def, and this is just, you can see him, well, I think almost his entire body, and you can see a lot more going to the left. You can see this entire text of what the ceremony is about. Yes, this is actually ceremony. And instead, it was cut off at the words remony. Remony, that doesn't mean anything to me. Unless it's not remony, it's re, as in regarding, money. This is regarding money. And then you've got the sly smile of this police officer, and right next to his head is the police emblem. And I have analyzed this separately, so I know exactly what's on there, but let's run through it really quickly. At the top, you've got the crown, which people mistake to symbol the royal household of Britain. It does not. It's symbol because the royal household has a crest, okay? They've got the royal crest and they've got the royal flag, and they look totally different. I can show you what the royal flag looks like. UK royal flag. Like this. This is the royal flag. And when the Queen is at Buckingham Palace, this is the flag that's shown. When she's in residence, this is the royal standard that's hoisted up on the pole. And when she's not in residence, it's the Union flag. And the crest, right? The UK crest is the heart of this here. Okay, the British flag. It's oops. Sorry, this is the these different forms. Hang on. Oh, where's the one? Here, this one. The top of this one, okay, there at the heart. That is the royal crest. That represents the royal family. And that represents the royal family. But a crown does not represent the royal family in heraldry. No way. Not in a million years. Okay, so that represents the Crown Corporation. The Crown Corporation owns the police. By the way, the Crown Corporation also owns the City of London, which has its own police force, the City of London Police, but it also happens to own the entirety of the police, as it seems, as well as MI5 and MI6. But then you've got more symbolism because you have this octagon around it. Now, Octogon is inside the cartel, the enforcement arm. And this is why, from the US to the UK to even Hamburg police officers, the police hats are octagonal. Because Octogon is the control arm, the enforcement arm of the cartel. You can check that I'm not making this stuff up by going to YouTube and listening to an excellent introduction to this by the historian Sean Hross. So Sean Hross, spelled H-R-O-S-S, Octogon, and I think it's called Empire of Darkness. All right, where's the so he talks a lot about Octogon, but I think the one I mean is Empire of Darkness. Here, this one, Octogon, Empire of Darkness. This is the video. Okay, And there he goes through a lot of symbolism, but he's also talking about octagon in terms of police caps, you know, here. Why does the police, I think this is Hamburg police in Germany, why does it have octagonal caps and so on? And that's because Octogon is the enforcement arm of the cartel headquartered in Switzerland. Okay, that's cutting to the chase. So this is Octogon, owned by the Crown Corporation, and then at the heart of it, you can see the Cross of Malta. Not the Cross of High Wycombe or the Cross of Salisbury, it's the Cross of Malta. So none of the symbols here have anything to do with the UK, really. So you have suddenly this smug smile by this young chap representing the Crown Corporation, or the Octogon enforcement arm of the Crown Corporation, and you know, the Knights of Malta, the Cross of Malta. So as in the cartel, with a sly smile says, this is regarding money. Money. Okay. Regarding money. Fine. And then the next image is this, which is the CCTV camera. And then you think, okay, for the normals, this is the last, probably the last image of Sergei Skripal here, when he was still fine before the nerve agents hit him. Okay. And then you think, okay, for the normals, you include this, but what's the message for the cartel? And suddenly, do you remember how many images ago, let me go back, many images ago, we said the very first message from the cartel was, it's an egg hunt. So where are the eggs? I didn't see any eggs, unless I missed an egg here. It looks a bit like an egg, but not really. You know, Greg's, huh? What? No, no egg, no egg. Maybe, is that an egg? Perhaps that's an egg on top of the, you know, the Rotary Club and the cartel wishing us well. I can't see any eggs. No eggs, really. No eggs. I can see a lot of eggs here. I think I found the eggs. So I found the eggs in the egg hunt. And in which image did I find the eggs? The image to do with the till and Skripal paying. And the image just before was, it's regarding money. And the eggs of the egg hunt are here when Skripal is paying into the till. Okay, can you see how suddenly a totally different image is emerging when you look at images that otherwise are utterly nonsensical? And suddenly you begin to understand that there might be a different message here. Okay, so we found the eggs, and it's something to do with money, and it's something to do with perhaps Skripal paying money into the, you know, perhaps this shop is also owned by the cartel. It's paying into the cartel, into the mafia's piggy bank, you know, or not paying into the mafia's piggy bank, who knows, right? But it's something to do with money. So perhaps Skripal bringing money or not bringing money, you know, for the cartel. And remember that the mafia, this is not far-fetched, because the mafia in Italy does a lot of racketeering, right? It collects protection money famously from the restaurants around, you know, it's Sicily and then wherever, you know, Milano and Naples. So, you know, it's a money business at the core of it. Okay, and remember, individuality, Italian Freemasons. Here, some reference to Italy, some guy, I don't really know who that's meant to represent and what exactly that's. He almost looks like he's got a highlighted, I don't know what, like a highlighted collar or something. It almost looks like he's wearing decorative dress. No idea. Perhaps a reference to the City of London Corporation. The City of London sometimes has a parade where all the guilds are parading around this kind of gold embroidered cloth, but that's really far-fetched now. I'm just speculating. So let's stop the speculation. Let's just look at the images. It's something to do with money. And so Skripal you know, here are the eggs. The eggs are right next to the till, and Skripal's even looking at the eggs. He's like, here, there are the eggs, right? Okay. So, oh, I see. It's about money here, right? Something to do with the Italian mafia, the Masons, and money. Who would have guessed? I mean, really, that's frankly what it's always about. But here we are again. Now the next image is like, oh goodness, what a dreary home. But for those people who've never been to the UK, that's actually what the UK looks like, right? They've got homes like these everywhere. And they are lovely, you know. Otherwise, they are rather lovely. So, okay, what exactly is this? This might be Skripal's home, as we're informed over here, right? Now, for the normals, it's like, oh, Skripal was living in really kind of humble, normal sort of ways, right? He's not a kind of oligarch. Now, what does it mean to the cartel? Cartel symbols, I don't know. I'm looking. Of course, we've got the Masonic police force, but we had that, right? The Masonic police force is already on the grounds surrounding his house. Sometimes these number plates have a meaning, but WX60BDE, I mean, no idea. I can't pull anything out of that. Then we've got rural crime team. Now that amuses me. When you know that the police is working for the cartel, rural crime team means this is the team in charge of, you know, committing rural crime. Okay, that's funny, you know, tongue-in-cheek joke. And then the other thing I notice is that we've got this wonky chimney that looks almost photoshopped on. I mean, is this for real? Does that house actually have a chimney like that got knocked sideways? Or has it been photoshopped on? If it has been photoshopped on, it looks like two little devil horns. Okay, so it could be like, oh, this is actually a little satanic outfit, and Skripal is actually working for the cartel, little sod, you know, could be. I'm not sure. If there actually a chimney like that exists, I'm sorry, then it probably doesn't have any meaning. And otherwise, I can spot this horseshoe above his house. And that is, of course, meant to bring luck. And it's either the cartel laughing and saying, hey, look at your luck, you know, how much luck did you have here? It could be that, or it could be, again, a reference to the game of chance, the game of cards, the world of cards. It could also mean that Skripal all along has been working for the world of cards, for the game. He was working for the game. So that would, of course, also explain why he is involved in the egg hunt, and it's about him paying money. So perhaps he didn't pay money, you know, that's why he got hit. So that's what I read from this. And then that's very interesting because it's Skripal behind bars. He is caught. He's displayed here as caught. Now, why would you possibly include this image? The explanation here, Sergei Skripal speaks to his lawyer from behind bars, seen on a screen of a monitor outside a courtroom in Moscow. Now, the reference to this is that he was convicted in Russia, right? I think for high treason, for selling information to MI6. Okay, and then there was this court case, and then he was, you know, spirited out of Russia, and then he went into exile, and then is living in London, or not in London. He's living in Britain, you know. Okay, so that's the story behind this. So this is an image from how he was behind bars, how he was caught back in Russia, in Moscow, outside a courtroom. And this is on a screen of a monitor. So he was actually behind bars and spoke to his lawyer, right? And then this is, again, just seen on a monitor. So this is what's an image to include? I mean, why would you possibly include an image from a monitor, right? I'm reading this text up here. Seen on a screen of a monitor outside a courtroom in Moscow. What? So again, for the normals, it's probably just a reference of, oh, you know, this guy was locked up by the Russians. So the evil Russians hate him, and that's why they traipsed all the way to Salisbury to actually do him in. Okay, I get that much. But what is the message to the cartel? Well, the outfit he's wearing is striking with the red V here. That's sometimes used to be a reference to the Templar V, like a V in victory. Remember Churchill, the big Freemason and member of the cartel, showed the V sign in the Second World War, which, as we know, was totally staged, right? That's the Freemason symbol. It sometimes means the double pillars. You show two fingers, right? And oh, by the way, showing two fingers to somebody is also said to be, oh, this is a reference to medieval archers, and they used to get their fingers cut off. And that's why if you show two fingers to somebody, it means that they can bugger right off because you still have your fingers, and therefore you can still pull the longbow and kill somebody, right? So for the medieval archers, the two fingers meant a lot. But of course, we know now that's nonsense. The two fingers, the V sign, means I'm a member of the cartel, so bugger off, right? Bugger off, because you're one of the normals and I'm a member of the mafia, so that trumps it. So get lost, right? Don't give me hassle. That's what the two fingers actually mean, and that's also what the victory sign means. So this is why the red actually could be a reference to the cartel. He's a member of the cartel, you know. That's the only thing I can read from here. Or it also means, hey, we've caught Skripal, right? He's now trapped. He's behind bar. He's behind bars. He's in jail, incarcerated. We got him. Okay. And then the final image, and this is what this entire story ends on, is Julia Skripal, who is said to have been poisoned along with her father, smiling happily into the camera. But the most striking thing is that you can only see one eye. And when you have studied the cartel, you know immediately that this is a symbol to the all-seeing eye. When you can just see one eye, it's a reference to the all-seeing eye. When women photograph themselves like this, okay, some women think it's sexy, but within the cartel, it means that they are a member of the cartel. So both Sergei and Yulia have symbols and display symbols that are identify them as members of the cartel. In other words, you know, either this is just one big show from the start, or it's some mafia internal business. Okay. Either way, it's not what it seems. And the entire little picture story finishes with a kind of somewhat I don't know how to put it, cheeky smile from the all-seeing eye, you know. And then she's got some stuff in her hair. I'm not sure if she's been dragged through a hedge backwards or something, or perhaps it's some sort of fairy highlighting in the hair that women, you know, take to these days. No idea, but she's got something in her hair. Okay, so this is a rather curious image. Okay, now the question is again, where would they have gotten this image from? Was this on her Facebook profile? You know, because her father couldn't have given it to them. Her mother died. That's written in the article. And it says the Home Office didn't get in touch with any other relatives in Russia. So the only place they've gotten this from, could have gotten it from, is from Facebook. So we should all quickly check if Julia Skripal has a Facebook and this image is on there and has been used by the cartel, or if it's not on Facebook and it's not publicly available on any of her social media sites. What it means is that this entire image was already given to the journalists ahead of time. It's staged, people. It's staged. Okay? So it could either be the cartel using them to send a message, okay, and they are actually severely harmed, or it's all staged. Now, if it was staged, what could be the possible reason? The reason could be to smear it on Russia and kick off World War III by attacking Russia, right? That could be one idea, to kick off another war and feed the military intelligence complex, the military intelligence industrial complex, or the military intelligence industrial government complex, with ever more contracts, you know, and ever more money, and all the defense industries making all these weapons, and you need to kind of, you know, shoot weapons into people and then buy new weapons and so on. So you need to keep a big business going. So this could be the entire thing entirely staged to keep a big, massive, multi-billion trillion market in weapons going by having a major war with Russia, right? And that's what this could be used for. But then the other thing that you learn is that this cartel makes money in many different ways. It makes as much money as it possibly can with everything it does. That's their day job, okay? They are a business. The mafia, the organized crime cartel is a business. They're making money as a day job. So can we think of any other way you could possibly make a lot of money with this? Now let's just go back through these entire images. What did we learn today? We learned that it could be a bunch of, you know, forensic guys putting on a show with the sun-worshipping cartel in their back, and that's what's actually guiding this entire thing. You know, the cartel takes this to be another card game, another game of chance where they are going to win a lot of money. They're going to have a huge gain. And, you know, they're using the police for a little egg hunt to score a goal. Okay. And then what they will do is they will use the military, that's actually military intel in disguise, as an MI6, MI5, military intelligence section 5, in disguise behind these forensic guys, right? And what they will do is behind all this will be some money-making scheme involving the Masonic NHS, or the Masonic Health Service, in disguise behind this whole forensic tarpaulin. And they will use, as it's pointed out, the scene of the accident in this entire incident. They will use this incident to make money, right? And the cartel via the Rotary Club is sending its regards, and it says, please give generously. All right. And it's almost like, hey, guys, let's pour as much money into this. So, you know, give us as much money as you can out of this. Please give generously. And then they are signaling that all this is nonsense anyway, because the nerve agent isn't that toxic. So forget about the nerve agent, you know, little crooks who are reading this article. It's nothing to do with that. Don't get your knickers into a twist. What this is actually about is the Freemasons, right, doing something for an individual Italian, perhaps, who has, you know, commissioned this, perhaps. And it's something regarding money for the Crown Corporation that's using Octogon, the Octogon enforcement arm of the Templars, to, here we found the eggs, you know, to have some sort of business. They are making business. So Skripal is somehow making money for the cartel, and it's regarding money. And this is his, maybe this means he is lucky, right? He's maybe lucky. You know, maybe he's a little devil that actually works for the game of chance, one of their little sods, one of their little devils in the game of chance. Or maybe he is actually trapped by them, you know, but he has this Templar V on him. It's hard to say if he's a victim or if he's part of this, right, at this stage. Julia Skripal also seems to be doing the Cartel-Signalling, the all-seeing eye, right? And it could either mean, if this is the cartel speaking here, right, it could either mean, well, you know what, Sergei, we got you now. You didn't pay us the money, or you didn't make us money. Now we got you. Now we're making money off you. And given that you signed up to be a member of the cartel, well, you know, in for a penny, in for a pound. And the same with your daughter Julia, who is also a member of the cartel, given that she signed up to be a member of the All-Seeing Eye Club, as in the global mafia, the global crime cartel. Well, you know, she's also in it, right? And they are now making as much money as possible. So this could be the story, but certainly the cartel is making money. Now let's go back, because at this stage we can't figure out if Sergei and Yulia are victims or are in on it. All right, so let's look now. Let's go back to the text and let's look for clues in the text. And I think you can go through this, but at the bottom, I think it said here, so Skripal had been jailed for treason in Russia for allegedly passing secrets to MI6 via a colonel in the GRU, Military Intelligence Agency. Okay. So it could either be Russia's actually, you know, seriously had a problem, because this guy was working for MI6. He was working for MI6. But then again, I know for a fact that MI6 and the GRU, I mean, this is GRU, Russian military intelligence. This is British military intelligence. They are working for the same corporation, right? I mean, remember, they already worked for the same corporation during the Cold War, right? Certainly now. So what? Okay, so basically what this means is, I don't know, maybe Russia is really cycling out of the cartel, perhaps, and they are now going after all the agents who are still working for the Crown Corporation via MI6, right? It could be. And it says here, Skripal's wife died in 2012. His son passed away last year, and he's also believed to have lost his brother in recent years. Huh. And now he is almost dead and his daughter are almost dead. It looks like somebody has been taking them out. So again, for the normals, this means, oh, you know, Russia is really going after all his family members. But my question is, did his wife die in Russia or did she die in the UK? You know, either way, when I read stuff like that, you know, I almost, well, there are two, again, with these deaths, with these cartel deaths, you have to be careful, okay? Because on the surface of it, every victim of the intelligence agencies, so-called targeted individual, knows that that's exactly what the intelligence agencies are doing. They kill your pets, then they kill your elderly parents, then they kill your loved ones, and they kill your siblings. That's what they do. But with high-level military intelligence guys who are really high up in the cartel, sometimes, you know, these deaths are faked. But then again, would they fake the deaths of an entire family? I don't know. I just don't know enough about that. Okay. I don't know enough about that. And frankly, at this point in the investigation, I can't tell, just looking at cartel signaling in this one article, if Sergei and Yulia are fine and this wasn't, the entire thing was a show and they're actually fine, or if they're not fine at all. You know, if they're actually victims and they are now the last two people to be taken out by the cartel, and with that maybe an entire lineage has been murdered here, you know. Because when Skripal lost his brother, this is another male heir to maybe a bloodline, you know, not a Illuminati bloodline, but, you know, a genetic family, you know. So again, it could be something like that. These two are genuine victims, or they are in on it all along, you know. And they are so deep in the cartel, you wouldn't believe it. It would explain why Yulia Skripal is also showing the all-seeing eye image of herself on something that must be a public image. And this is why I'm saying, you know, when Sergei Skripal's in hospital and his wife has died, right? You can also read here, the Court of Protection heard that he has some relatives in Russia, but the Home Office has not attempted to contact them. So where did they get the image of Yulia? You know, but if daddy is in military intelligence, he knows about cartel signaling. And unless his daughter's in this entire thing, he would not allow her to put out social media images where she can be seen doing the all-seeing eye image, you know, because the kids of military intel guys, I mean, their Facebook profiles are monitored, right? I mean, so that doesn't happen by chance. So I don't know. I don't know. It could be that these two are genuine victims of the crime cartel because they failed to make as much money and the crime cartel got annoyed with them. No idea. I can't tell at this point in time, but certainly a lot of things are fishy. And for sure, The cartel has just told us it's regarding money. So now let me go back to the image I said I'm going to close the circle in the end. And the one image that I said, I'm going to get back to, because it seemed rather far-fetched in the beginning, is this one. Now, I know from what I've seen that the cartel makes as much money off people and off its victims as it possibly can. So how can you make a lot of money? You can, of course, use this to kick off a war with Russia and say, oh, they murdered 2 people in Britain in the most horrific way. That's why we need to attack Russia. If at this point you still believe the official narrative that the Russians did it, right? I've just got one question to you. Why oh why would the Russians kill somebody, maybe to take him out because he knew so much? He knew so much. But if he knew too much, then he would have never, ever left Russia alive. When he was jailed for treason, once you're in jail in Russia and they think you know too much, there is no way he would have gotten out alive at that stage. Okay? He would have died of a heart attack in prison. But that's not what happened. So it couldn't possibly be the case that Sergei Skripal knew too much for the Russians' liking. That cannot be the story. Even if you think it were, and that's why he got bumped off, why would the Russians use a compound that is so specialized that only they are on record of actually having developed it? Really, I mean, there are so many compounds with which you can actually induce a heart attack. And based on my work, right, my work for the joint investigation team here, I can tell you, you can just send an intensive directed energy weapon pulse to his heart and he would collapse on the bench, or next to the bench, and people would think, oh, heart attack. No trace. End of story. And given the current cover-up on directed energy weapons, the government couldn't even, open him up, see that his heart is maybe burnt, and say, oh no, the Russians did it because his heart is burnt, because they have this total silencing of the, of the media about directed energy weapons. So if I were Russian, I would bump people off. I would just use directed energy weapons. Just do it. You could just, kill anybody in the UK, and the pulse could never ever be traced back to you. So that's not the story. So what is the story? And let's go back to this. And here they are putting out these big bags, and I'm telling you, if you have been following the British media, these red bags mean something to you. It is about the spy in the bag. Identical bag. Spy in the bag. So what happened to the spy in the bag? Now, we're still talking cartel signaling, okay? The cartel knows exactly what's going on. When Gareth Williams died, literally, the mainstream media was trying to tell us that he himself zipped himself into a sports bag and proceeded to die. Okay? I mean, he was a math genius, so that's a genius way to go, really. If you wanted to, I don't know, blame it on your employer because you're disgruntled. But really, I mean, come on. This is nonsense. So what was actually the story behind the spy in the bag? Well, the story was that Gareth, as far as I could make out, based on what's in the public domain, was working for MI6. He was in the US, had just traveled back, and then he came down with an illness that killed him very, very quickly. And he's seen to go to a pharmacy, and he's also seen, I'm not sure if that's, changed on the images or if this is genuine, that he looks rather jaundiced, So the entire story behind that was, and this is what people who know more about the stuff than I do actually put out, was that he could have been killed by some sort of fungus. A fungus that gives you basically instant hepatitis, it takes out your liver, and stuff like that. So that was the story behind the spy in the bag. And then once this thing killed him, he was put into the sports bag. And then, they were looking to safely decompose him. And that's why his body was not just in a sports bag, kind of safely contained, but also the bathtub was partially filled with water to accelerate the decomposition of his body. In other words, he was used for a bioweapon test. Now, when I see this red sports bag or red bag, I immediately therefore think bioweapon test. So could you possibly, you know, when you see this as the first image that you see, could you possibly think, hang on, could it be that the cartel is making money by doing an illegal bioweapons test? And could it be that all along the story is not, it is not about Sergei Skripal and his daughter, because they have vanished so quickly, they have disappeared so quickly, and then the police officer who attended to them is here as one of the images, right? And he appears here with a smug smile. And what if he's actually working for MI5 and this entire thing is staged? And it's actually not about Sergei Skripal and that sort of money business, but he's actually making money for the cartel. He's now paying money into, you know, the till of the cartel. And maybe the real money maker is when no one has looked, because it hasn't actually appeared, you know, as mainstream news. So what's the bit that's mentioned and everybody has missed? Let's just go through, because at some point, I'm not sure if it's in this article or if it's on one of the articles that you can read about this. I think it's this here. Here. Police have not confirmed how the nerve agent was administered, but confirmed that a total of 38 people were treated for varying symptoms resulting from exposure. Really? So you have got 38 other people and you don't breathe a word about their names? And this is not a, you know, this is not an article that just appeared within hours of us knowing about it. This is an article here in The Independent that appeared yesterday. And as of yesterday, you're mentioning 38 people and you don't tell me their names or who they were. And maybe this is patient confidentiality, but usually The Independent doesn't give a flying monkey about that. So hang on, we've got 38 people. Well, you know, add 2, which is Sergei and his daughter, and you have 40. Now, 40 people or 38 are a sizable sample for bioweapons test. Maybe a live test, maybe testing how a bio-warfare weapon would be spreading to people within a, you know, within a town, perhaps because you would want to use it on a much larger scale in a bigger, you know, setting somewhere. I think this is where the real money lies. It's about testing a nerve agent on your population, you know. And what if that bench is just a decoy, you know, and that bench where all the attention is, you know, the bench with the big yellow and white, you know, thing, where's it? That bench in that location has absolutely no relevance, that bench, to the actual, you know, to how these people got that toxin into them, right? This bench here, where all the hoo-ha is. Look, all the highlighting. I mean, you couldn't put any more highlighting colors onto this spot if you tried. But what if this is not where the entire answer is? What if the answer lies somewhere where there is total silence? Silencio omerta. Everybody is silent about the other 38 people. It's like, oh, don't worry about them. They're fine. Just be glad they're not in as critical a condition as Sergei and Yulia. Well, you know, I mean, still they have a nerve agent in them. I would want to know how they are doing. And the Independent, as of yesterday, is not going to tell me anything about that. What? So what if those 38 people are the real victims? And what if the actual thing is that they were not? You know, the fact that they came down with this had nothing to do with this bench and this locality. In fact, that bench and that thing, that area, is the safest in the entirety of the UK. The biggest danger is you being crapped on by the pigeons. I would put my money on that. I would sit on that bench right now. I would sit on that little white and yellow tent. Honestly, I would lick the bench. I think it's that safe, personally, based on what I've seen. You know, I think these people didn't get themselves infected. Why? Because if you're doing a weapons test, of course, you know it can spread everywhere. It can spread to your cartel members. It can run out of hand. You wouldn't do that. No. What if these people got injected? And I've got an example of that because, as everybody knows by now, I'm a victim of MI5 and MI6 and German and Swiss intelligence. And stuff they did with me, along with many, many other victims, is that they shot stuff into me. I had stuff sniped into my arm. I still don't know if that's a chip or if that was a bio-warfare weapon. But I had stuff smeared on my thighs, you know, a fungus or some sort of skin disease that was also smeared onto the back of my neck. And just before Christmas, when I did an interview about the assaults of the intelligence agencies on my person, they, to be even more demonstrative, shot stuff into my neck. And the journalist who interviewed me saw how this swelled up massively, and it still hasn't healed. And again, it seems to be some sort of bioweapon that is now, you know, affecting my neck area. So that's the sort of stuff I know for sure the intelligence agencies are doing. So what if this is it? That's the story behind it, right? The story behind it is that this is a military intel weapons test on unsuspecting people in the UK that no one gives a damn about, that they wouldn't even mention their names. Perhaps? Is that maybe what it is? Or is it the announcement of the cartel of military intelligence doing weapons tests on the population? That would also explain why these 38 people are not mentioned, because they don't exist. Because no one had any symptoms. Right? That could be more like it. You know? Or you make money by putting something out, but these are all the things with massive question marks in here, right? When you go through this, I can tell you that when I saw this, the only question you have to ask is if these people are to be rinsed off on this blue tarpaulin here by people who do the rinsing, right? And they themselves have to wear this protective, you know, stuff. You would not have these people stand around unless you know that it's safe. Simply because if they came down with this, they would sue the pants off the police or the fire service. So what this image shows is that this entire thing is safe, everybody, okay? Don't worry about it. It's safe. The cartel tells you it's safe. So what's not safe? You know, what's this hoo-ha about? Okay? And it is for these reasons, now closing the circle, it is for these reasons that I read the 30 questions that the Ron Paul Institute for Peace and Prosperity put out. And I certainly agree that those are the questions to ask, but then there's an entire batch of questions to ask, right? Not least, who the hell are the other 38 people who are affected by this? And what are the symptoms? And are they all right? You know? So that's where the real story is, people. You know, it's not about Russia. And thank goodness, Craig Murray, the former ambassador to Uzbekistan, who has became, well, he's also a historian, but he has become famous when he was the only ambassador to object to the CIA's extraordinary rendition and torture program. You know, as it was conducted in Uzbekistan. I think they used Uzbekistan and Uzbek sites to torture people. So that guy has integrity. Oh, but by the way, also he's incredibly honest because, you know, I think he left his wife and married a stripper. I mean, he's an honest guy, right? You can tell that much. But he pointed out that when Portendown did the tests, they said that what they have found was, you know, the samples were tested positive for the presence of Novichok class nerve agent or closely related agent. And with that, it means that you can't say that it's just Russia. It could have been anybody. Okay? So even if it were Novichok, it would not prove that it was that it was manufactured by Russia. Here it says closely related agent could be a closely related agent could be manufactured by literally scores of states and non-state actors. Yeah, and you know what? It could also be manufactured by MI6 at Porton Down. Okay, so what is all this about? This is nonsense. It's a non-starter. All right, it's all nonsense from start to end. So go and investigate this case. Please do ask these questions, but ask all the other questions that need to be asked as well. Okay, please. And the reason why this is so flaming important is because what I've seen throughout this entire article and this entire saga of Skripal is that it has the signature of the cartel written all across it. The global organized crime cartel that owns half the world and owns all of organized crime and owns our governments and owns MI6 and owns the KGB and owns the CIA. You know, that's what it's really about. And what is it doing to us? Well, I can tell you what it's doing to me personally. It's shooting up my organs with directed energy weapons. And that's what it does to all of my colleagues. It's shooting up the organs of my colleague Karen Melton Stewart in the US. It's shooting up the organs of my colleague Dr. Millicent Black. And by the way, you can have a look at what it's like being shot to pieces with directed energy weapons, because we have the MRIs from Millicent up here, and you can see how her bones, she's being shot at by a cartel agent called Randall Webster, and you can see how her bones, I mean, she also has chips in herself, but this bit of the bone that was fine in 2014, you know, in 2016, 2 years later, you can see how the bone has been exploded away brutally. This is so sadistic, you can't believe it. And yet no police officer would help her in the US, would help me in Switzerland, would help a famous NSA whistleblower in the US. It wouldn't help a journalist, right, in Boston, and it wouldn't help Melanie in Brussels. That's what it's really about, okay? What this is really about is that there's a global genocide happening. And I'm just about to update my website here. This is what we should be talking about, you know? It's about a global Holocaust. So Vanessa Beeley is fighting a Holocaust, the one that she's seeing. That's the acid stripping genocide program of the cartel and on her patch, right? And on my, vegetable patch, it's about directed energy weapons, the illegal implanting of the civilian population in the US and Europe and elsewhere in the world. It's about systematic mutilation. It's about brain mutilation. It's about genocide treaties. And this is what it's about. So please go back, look at these cases, and then investigate everything else. And please do it fast, because we need your help. Thank you for listening. I hope you found this interesting, and I really hope that the time you invested will be, not a waste of your time, but it would actually help you to uncover the biggest fraud and the biggest criminal psyop that has ever been pulled on mankind. It has been pulled on us for thousands of years, and now it's time to wake up. And if really Sergei and Yulia Skripal and as poorly as they are described to be, I'm extremely sorry for them, and then their suffering has to wake us all up. And we have to finally move against this crime cartel that use their misery to send out signals to threaten other people and to mock them. Okay, if they're actually fine and this entire thing was a psyop, then we really need to get extremely angry. And I also say that if Sergei and Yulia should pass away, should that really happen, we have to also check that they actually died and weren't just whisked off somewhere for the cartel to work in other areas. I have no idea. I have no idea what's going on, but I can tell for sure that some really criminal things have been happening. And when the mainstream media is putting out a different story that's actually the story of organized crime and the messages of organized crime, we have to ask extremely hard questions also of the editors of The Independent. Who are they actually working for? And what are they actually telling us in their articles? So these are the questions we should ask. Thank you for listening, and have a good evening.